Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is the Breaking Free Show. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope all is well, and I hope you had a great weekend wherever you are. And I'm whispering. Oh, okay. I'm not said I'm whispering. I better not whisper. I better use my outside voice. Okay. Everyone, welcome. I'm so glad you took the time to join us today. It's an honor to have you. So, hi, Amnon.
Hello, how are you?
Everybody needs a director and an Amnon.
Well,
Yeah. I didn't know I was whispering. How are you?
I'm just fine. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Did you have a good weekend?
I had a good weekend. Did you have a good week last
I
week?
had a good week. I had a good weekend.
Good.
It was all good. I got to see my 3-year-old grandson in his first dance recital. He was a bunny and he was cute.
Oh,
He was one boy in the sea of young little cute little girls. So it was very cute. It was fun. All right, so on with our show. Remember, anytime during our show, you get to call in anytime you want to 919-518-9773, and you can also join us on Skype, and that's at computers, that's plural, the number 2 K voice, anytime you want. You can also join us in our chat. Just put your name under our video and you can comment, ask questions, whatever you like there as well. We love it if you would join our show anytime. It's an invitation. So if you are moved by something our guest says today and you want to comment, ask questions, you're curious about something, please feel free to call in or chat with us in any way you like. So I'm really so excited about my show today because I have been looking for somebody to talk about this forever. And I am so glad we have found Freddy Negrete to join us today. And Freddy is a tattoo artist, but not just any tattoo artist. He specializes in black and white. And you're going to hear Freddy's story. So let's welcome Freddy to our show today. Hey, Freddy.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome. I'm good. How are you?
Great, great. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. So tell everybody about Freddy.
Uh, I grew up in the Chicano Cholo, uh, East LA barrio scene, and got in a lot of trouble down there. But still, the Chicano Cholo scene, we gave the world khakis, Pendletons, lowrider cars, graffiti art, and black and gray tattoos. That's kind of where I came in. I was born with art ability, of course, and so I became the go-to graffiti guy in the neighborhood. Also, I did hand poke tattoos on my homies, and I used to, love drawing and everything. We had a lot of certain images that were very important to us, like Mexican Revolutionary type art, Pancho Villa, Zapata, the Chara girl. We love girls, you know. Also, you know, the religious images from the Catholic Church, Jesus and Mary and crosses and roses and rosaries, um, and writing. We were very much into writing, fancy writing, graffiti writing, because we wanted to say something about who we were and where we were from.
So you were in a gang, is that right?
Yes.
So how did you first of all, how did you find your way or why did you find your way into a gang?
I think part of it. My parents were both they were both gang members in the Pachuco scene, and they went to prison when I was really young. And my sister and I went through foster care. We ended up in like an abusive foster home, like a white foster home, and so I had a kind of an identity crisis. I knew I was Hispanic, and their thing was we're gonna beat the Mexican out of them. They try to make us good white kids, and but when I was about 12 years old, I rebelled and I ran away, and I went and lived with my friends in the Mexican neighborhood, and of course, the very obvious thing to identify myself with was the Chicano gang scene. And so I joined the gang really young, just about 12. And I got very much involved with it. I was very, very loyal to this subculture. And it affected my life in every way. I ended up being institutionalized because I was a really bad kid. I ended up in juvenile hall and camps. Probably the longest period of time that I would stay out of an institution during my teenage years was like 2 months, And but I did become a self-taught artist because the whole time I was in there, all I did was draw, and everybody wanted me to draw this and that. And so I did get a skill out of it. Eventually, when I went to prison, I learned to tattoo with a homemade tattoo machine. And when I got out, I set up my little tattoo shop in my apartment, in my kitchen, and I started doing tattoos on all the homies, prison style tattoos.
Okay, I want you to go into that in a second, but I just want to go back for a minute. So both your parents were part of gangs, and your mother, so your father was Mexican and your mother was Jewish.
Yes, so in East LA, Boyle Heights, there was a big Jewish community, and a lot of Jewish immigrants settled in Boyle Heights, and they had this uneasy relationship with the Hispanic community. They just didn't get along. But probably the biggest thing that the Jewish community had a problem with was when their daughters would go with the Suave Pachuco guys.
And what do you mean by Suave Pachico guys? What is that?
Well, the Pachucos, the zoot suits, the style of clothing, the talk, and their whole subculture is quite appealing, especially to immigrants. Even today, Armenian immigrants, Russian immigrants, they take to that Chicano subculture lifestyle, that street style, So it wasn't any different, not much different for the Jews when they settled in East LA, So my mother and father were kind of a result of that little historical event that took place there, and they both were gang members, and they both went to prison when I was really young. 2.5, actually.
2.5. And did they stay in prison?
Yeah, they both had pretty rough lives. I met my mother finally, and even went to go live with her when I was 14. I met my father when I was 21. I never had any animosity or anything towards them. Being a gang member myself, I was actually kind of proud of their little heritage, I had nothing but forgiveness for my father when I met him. We became really close up until he died just a few years ago. And so we went on to have a really great relationship.
And your mother, so your mother and your father, I take it, did not stay together then?
No.
And your mother, is she, so you though associate with being Hispanic, not Jewish? Or do you associate with both?
With both. I wear my Star David. And I really recently was able to get in touch with my Jewish heritage because I went into a Jewish treatment center because I was Jewish, called Beit Teshuvah. And so I learned an awful lot about Jewish heritage and customs and religion.
So you were in there for yourself, or you were in there because I thought I read somewhere that you actually are kind of.
I work there now.
You work there now, okay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I volunteer there now, but I work with young heroin addicts in group therapy and one-on-one therapy.
Interesting. And before we went live, I was talking to Freddie about the paths that we find ourselves kind of plopped on. Some things we do, everything obviously is some kind of a choice somewhere along the way. But we find ourselves on these paths that are so crazy, winding, and kind of absurd in some ways. And yet, the magic that comes from these crazy paths are you just can't plan it. And Freddy has that magic, comes from crazy paths, but has this magic. And so it's just fascinating to me. So you start to do tattooing in prison, like a kind of a makeshift tattoo thing, right? That you do. That's kind of common.
Actually, it was quite sophisticated, and because the Chicanos love tattoos, prison is where it really developed. Starting with the hand poke tattoos, which I started with. Some of the older guys would get out of prison, and they taught me how to set up a little hand poking rig, with a guitar string.
What does that mean, hand poking? I know nothing.
That means that you're doing it by hand, basically, and not motorized.
What about the sanitary things? Nothing like that? Doesn't matter?
Well, with the hand poking, we didn't think much back then about
I guess not.
sanitary. But in prison, however, we did clean the needles, and then everybody, like a person that wants to get tattooed, has to have their own needle made, or you can make one for them, So we use a different needle on everybody, especially because they need to be sharp. But in prison, what they did, with the cassette players, because you could have a cassette player and later on a CD, a Walkman CD, and we would break the motor out, and it made this little rotary. It had a little rotary post on it, and with a big pen, a toothbrush, electrical tape, a paper clip, and a sharpened guitar string, and a battery pack, we would make a quite sophisticated tattoo machine. The ink we would make, from the ashes from a burnt chest piece or burning baby oil, gives off like a black soot, and you would, kind of harness it on a piece of paper, scrape it off with a razor blade, and mix it with water and soap, and you'd have ink. Myself, I ended up in a really unique circumstance, because I started in youth authority. So when I was in youth authority, I got in big trouble in there for selling dope inside there, and I was given 3 years added to my time in a lockup facility called Tamarack. And this lockup facility was in this old building, and it was like just for bad YA kids, the worst of the worst. So the policy towards us was, look, if you guys don't kill each other, we'll let you tattoo, we'll bring you pornography, we won't search your cells. And so, and we learned how to make those tattoo machines, and every day we just tattooed ourselves all up, but that's how I got really good at it. I think things might have been very different if it wasn't for the fact that I was in an institution where they actually let us tattoo or turned a blind eye on it. And so, like I said, when I got out and started tattooing out of my apartment, at the very same time, they opened a tattoo shop in East LA on Winter Boulevard. And the guys that opened this shop quickly found out that the people in East LA wanted tattoos, yes, but they didn't want traditional looking tattoos. They wanted their tattoos to look like they were done in prison. And they accommodated. They learned how to adjust those professional machines with a single needle and fine line. They didn't have to do any color or anything, just black and gray. And they were doing a great job. So when I was tattooing out of my apartment, at the same time this shop was tattooing, I was seeing all this work. People would come and say, hey, look what I got at this shop. And so I would send my work, to those guys, and eventually we made contact, and Ed Hardy ended up being the owner of that tattoo shop, and he felt, and we got to hire this guy, and no tattoo shop anywhere would hire a Chicano Cholo gangster. It's just, there were none in the industry at all. And so I was like the first one. So myself, Jack Rudy, Ed Hardy, Mark Mahoney, Bob Roberts, we introduced a new style of tattooing to the professional tattoo world called black and gray realism. It's probably globally the most popular style of tattooing today.
So let me ask you something. Is it the black and gray that is the prison style, or is there something else about it that makes it the prison style?
It's the black and gray style. It just has its origins in California prison. That's where it's first started. And more than likely because in prison we didn't have any colors.
Right.
And it was a Chicano thing. Colors don't show up that well on darker skin either, but it had everything to do with the ingredients of our culture, our style of dress, those images that we loved so much and held fast to, and our love of tattoos.
But what is it about your culture that loves all of these things so much?
I think part of it is maybe the kind of the dark edge of it. I know when I finally got out, and this is in the 1970s, right? 1976, when I finally got out, I was covered with tattoos, and this in the 70s was very rare. So if you saw somebody all covered with tattoos, they were either some kind of sideshow freak or they were a gangster that's been to prison. And so, and if you've been to prison, because prison is so tough and a lot of people don't even survive it, people just naturally had this thing like, this is a badass.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
This guy is, don't mess with him.
But people like badasses for some reason, right?
Yeah.
What is the mystique?
Saying that's why people get tattooed today, but that's kind of what it meant. If they, I know, like, for instance, I would go to like Disneyland or something, and I'd wear a tank top, and people would, be standoffish with me, like, whoa, but they would stare at me. I was probably the only person in the whole park that was covered in tattoos, But I knew there was a future in it because the little kids loved it.
Uh-huh.
Little kids would come up and say, "Look at the tattoos! Look at the tattoo man!" And I'd show them my tattoos and stuff, And back then I realized, I was like, there's a good future in tattooing because these kids love it, and these kids are going to be adults one day, and they're going to love tattoos.
But I was right. You were right. That was smart of you. That was a really insightful thought. So you've been out of prison since 76. So you've been out like 42 years? No. How many? 76?
But who's counting?
I know. That's a long time, though. 42 years.
Time.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I actually, later on in life, I went back to prison, But we can get into that. We can get into that a little bit later.
Okay. All right. So you did connect. So I just want to go back for a second. You did connect into your Jewish heritage. So now, are you connected to your Jewishness other than that center, like Jewish family too, or?
I'm connected, through my temple, which is also the recovery center, and I've built lasting relationships with other, counselors and recovery workers, and and a lot of great relationships with people that have gone through the program that, I've helped through. So I stay in touch like that. I have a really strong relationship with God, mainly through the 12-step program, but I have, other religious background. I mean, I have a degree in biblical literature. There was a time in my life when I quit tattooing and became a born-again Christian and went to college and, got that degree. So I think I've put it all together into a fascinating walk with God that I have today.
So what is that message that you walk with? Like, what is your personal kind of mission, movement, identity to yourself? I guess I'm curious.
I don't know if you know anything about the 12-step program that we learn to rely on our higher power, and that's God as you understand him. And I understand God through, Judaism and Christianity. I also believe in Jesus, and but I have respect for all religions. But I think, holding fast to, like a religious dogma can be a stumbling block, because I've found God to be a greater power and a spiritual being who wants to come into our life and wants to be invited in. And you'll see him in every aspect of your life, once you have that openness and that willingness, just to let go and let God. And, so, that's my thing. And I know today it's really tough with all this different religious things, the political issues, because certain, denominations will believe, oh, this is a sin, and it becomes a political issue, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it divides people. And some people are turned off to God completely, and they become atheists or agnostic, and they feel completely opposed to these other people who are claiming to be religious, but have an opposing political view.
Right.
And I think what that does is damage the possibility of having a great relationship with a spiritual being who is our greater power. I mean, for me, I believe in science. I love science. I think it's fantastic where we've come, through science. But what science really does to me is point to an extreme greater power. And it helps me with my relationship with God. And I think anybody, whatever their political view is, can have we're free to believe, we're in a free country, and we're free to believe and to choose how we want to live and what we want to believe. And I think everybody has that right. And I think that's a God-given right. If God forced us to believe in him, then we'd be robots.
That's right.
So I'm really strong on this freedom that we have to choose. And I've chosen my path, and it's a good way of life. And I'm willing to help anybody else that needs help with it. But everybody has their freedom of choice. And it's not me to judge.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, and I think that's part of the intrigue of your story is how you have found your choices. And that's important. That's a great message. Right. So I want to show, we have a PowerPoint, some slides that we can show about some of your art. And I'd love to show some of it. So I'm going to ask Amnon, and then you could describe, this is you at work, right?
Yep, that's me doing a tattoo.
All right. And then the next one?
This is called Our Lady of Sorrows. And they're everywhere, in different Catholic churches. And it's kind of a painted statue that has the Madonna in tears because of the death of her son Jesus.
So did you do this? There's an actual, did you look at something to do this, or do you do this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's an actual statue called Our Lady of Sorrows.
And you did this on somebody's arm?
Actually, that is somebody's leg.
Somebody's leg. Okay.
That's their calf. And it's between two tattoos. So it's kind of like, it's called a filler tattoo, where you kind of fill in a space. So the complete image is not there, like, her head, or, you know what I mean? So you just focus on the beauty of her face, and a little bit of background indicating that she has, like a cloak.
And how long did it take you to do that?
That one took about 4 hours.
4 hours. Amazing, right? All right. What's the next one?
So this is a back piece, and it's a portrayal of the Archangel Michael destroying the devil. And what I did in here, because there's a lot of traditional images of the Angel Michael, but so I took a different image from this great illustrator who drew Conan the Barbarian. His name was Frank Frazetta, and then I added my own take on it, and kind of made him with the wings, put the sword in his hand, put horns on the devils, and so I kind of transformed a famous painting to become the Archangel Michael.
So when somebody comes to you, they come with an idea?
Yes.
And then you bring in your originality to it? I mean, how does that work? What's the process?
Yeah. Then we discuss the image. I make suggestions. In this case, he wasn't sure if he, found an image of the Archangel Michael that he was completely happy with. There's a lot of them out there, and we, as artists, we usually stay true to the known images and statues. So I did a sketch for him like this, showed him the images that I'd be working from, and I suggested it to him. I thought it would be a different take, so he wouldn't have the same Archangel Michael that other people had. It would be completely unique. Mm-hmm. And he was up for that.
He was. Cool. And that took how long?
It was 5 sessions, about 30 hours.
30 hours. What is how's the price range for doing something like this?
I charge $200 an hour.
Okay. Gotcha. And what's the most expensive tattoo you've ever done?
Well, there's people that I've covered their whole bodies.
Yeah, so it just keeps on going then.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
I've had customers, I had this guy that came from Hong Kong, and got a complete chest and sleeve done within 3 days of being there, so normally, you do a portion, let it heal, and do another portion. So, I mean, we got the whole thing done in 3 days, and he was a rock. He just sat there.
It hurts, right? It bleeds. It hurts.
Yeah, not a lot of blood.
No.
Try not to go too deep. You try to keep the tattoo in the skin layers. You have 7 layers of skin. I think when you break through the layers and into the flesh is when you draw more blood, So there's not a lot of blood with my tattooing. There is some seeping.
So, are you noticing a trend today with a theme that people want tattooed?
I, there's a lot of themes. What I noticed when I was tattooing in East LA and tattooing mostly all gangsters and cholos and cholas, um, those images, I found that those images that were important to us and the reasons behind them, like memorial tattoos and writing and titles of songs and things like that, have become are really important to people from every walk and every culture, and they're discovering that they can say something about themselves through some image of a tattoo, something that they love, a poem that they love, um, sayings, one-liners, uh, portraits of loved ones, you know, and so a lot of the classic Chicano art, people just want to get it, like the clown girl and the smile now, cry later, things like that.
It must be amazing for you, I'm guessing, to be able to get that close to someone, not just touching their body, but that's one thing, but to hear, why they want something on their body that they're going to carry, but, pretty much for the rest of their lives, something that touches them. It's as close. It's like touching their heart when you do a tattoo on somebody's body.
Right. And I really try, my thing is this, like most artists are trying to do their art, you know what I mean? What I'm trying to do is the person's art. This person wants some artwork on their body and they want it to mean a certain thing. Tattoos are very meaningful these days, and so I'm just the practitioner, but I try to find out what's in their head. What are they thinking? Maybe I can help them with the image. Maybe I can transform the image to make it more evident of what they're trying to say with it. So I really try to, that's my art. It's trying to find out what this person wants to say with the tattoo and what it means to them.
So besides the fact that you have this extraordinary ability to kind of paint in a way, how much of who you are and from where you've come from and the idea of being able to make choices and how expressive you are just by nature, how much of all of that has made you into this great tattoo artist?
A lot of it, but especially that experience as a youth, being a rebellious youth, being in a gang, almost not surviving it, and just in the last 10 years, having a new outlook on my life, being sober and focused, has added a new dimension to my artwork. I'm 61 years old and I'm supposed to be on a downward,
Oh, please don't tell me that. I'm 64.
Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm on an upward one. I'm developing as an artist. I'm getting better. This newfound life that I have has made me a more focused artist, and I'm doing the best work that I've ever done in my whole life right now.
And what's making it? I mean, what is it about the art, and how is the art better? I mean, it's pretty extraordinary, but is it more detail? What is it?
Well, there's a lot of different things. There's been, a lot of technical advances, but a lot of it is this, when I was a young tattoo artist, when we were first starting this, one of the things that set us apart from the rest of the tattoo artists doing traditional tattoos is we had greater art ability. Back then in the 70s, if you had great art ability, you weren't going to tattoo, because the traditional style of tattooing was very simple, just kind of like with bold lines and colored in, almost like cartoonish, you know? So probably what's changing tattooing the most is the fact that with kind of the destruction, so to speak, of graphic design and illustration, these great artists that have the ability of like a Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo all over the world have chosen their medium, have chosen tattooing as their medium, because it's still a pure art and it's a unique art. You know, you can't do it with computers, you know, you got to do it.
You got to do it. Yes.
And so with all these fantastic artists bringing new insight into the industry, everybody learns from it. All the artists everywhere absorb from it. With social media, I can see what artists in Australia and Europe, probably some of the most fantastic artists come from the Ukraine and Eastern Europe. And it's just unbelievable the work that they do. And it's inspiring for everybody. So
interesting. So
you know, I can see, wow.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
it's
so
fascinating.
Pushing the envelope.
You're pushing the envelope.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing is you know, there's a lot of technology improvement with the inks, needle setups, machines. You know, what's fascinating is that little rotary machine that we invented in prison has become, you know, manufacturers, tattooers and manufacturers have figured out a way to create a rotary style professional tattoo machine. And I would say all the young artists today, that's their go-to machine. It was invented in prison.
Interesting. Okay, so first of all, I want to ask you, what on your body, as far as a tattoo, what is the one tattoo on your body that you just love? Or do you love them all?
You know, I love them all, you know, because all my tattoos were a part of a journey. But probably the one I love the most is this one on my neck that says,
yeah, there it goes.
Rest in peace, Frosty.
And
Frosty was the nickname of my youngest son who passed away. And I was actually in prison when I did that tattoo.
And so what happened with him?
You know, he was shot and murdered in kind of a gang incident here in Los Angeles, and it brought the worst, you know, worst time in my life, the darkest times, because you know, I felt a lot of guilt because of it. You know, his mother and I were divorced. I was living in Los Angeles. She was living in Central Coast, California, beautiful place. He wanted to come and live with me, and we had a custody battle, and I got custody of him, and I brought him to Los Angeles. And frankly, I wasn't all that good of a dad, and he started running around the streets and eventually got shot and killed. So, and I became just a complete hopeless drug addict. It was a really dark time in my life.
I am sorry.
Well, you know, on a bright note, you know, it also destroyed, you know, the years of drug abuse, you know, kind of destroyed my health. I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, drug-induced congestive heart failure. And you know, actually, I ended up in the county jail, sick, you know, withdrawing. You know, I nearly died in there. I had 3 heart attacks, And that's when I had my spiritual awakening with God. I remembered, a story about a king, a prophet who went to a king and told him, "Look, your days are numbered. You're gonna die. Get your affairs in order," basically. And the king went to God himself and asked for more time, and God gave him 15 more years. And I was inspired by that story, and I prayed to God. I said, God, I'm not going to make any promises, because every promise I've ever made, I've broken. All I'm asking is for a little bit more time, so I won't die in this wretched county jail of failure, so I can have a chance to redeem myself and be an example to my son who's still alive. And actually, I made a miraculous recovery from that. And I believe that God touched my body and brought healing to my body, and made a way for me to go into this treatment center, this Jewish treatment center, where I was introduced to a complete new way of life. And it's been 10 years now that I've been sober and clean, and on this journey of sobriety and relationship with God. I've had therapy, everything that program offered worked for me. I was able to deal with my son's death, come to terms with my part in it, and accept my part in it, and have this outlook that I have now, that everything I do, I'm doing as if my son was watching down on me, and I'm going to live my life in a way that would make him proud. So that's how I live my life.
Well, that is, there are no words, beyond words. I really appreciate what you just shared, beyond anything I can say. And it just makes me want to read your book all the more. And here it is. And I think everybody should read this book, because the whole story is in this book, right? The whole story.
Yep.
The whole story. And that's and some. And see, this is the point, that you are the epitome of the Breaking Free show. You are the epitome of what my books in just one afternoon are all about. My series, in just one afternoon, anything is possible. And everything is possible. Anything and everything is possible. It's all possible. There's nothing that's not possible. So tell us about this book. Smile Now, Cry Later. Guns, Gangs, and Tattoos. My Life in Black and Gray. Can you just sum it up?
Well, when people ask, why did you think your stories, and why did you write a book, basically? So the book has, that Chicano culture, the culture that gave people low-riding cars and all that, graffiti, and there's a great interest in that, and I was very much a part of that, and have firsthand knowledge of it all. Also, the prison life. People are very interested these days on what goes on in prison, so I have a lot to say about that in the book. And then there's the tattoo thing. It's kind of the historical aspect of tattooing, how it actually got to where it is today. And then, of course, most importantly, it's a book of redemption and new life, and how a person can be as far to the curb as you can get, and still find hope and power to rise up and live a new life, a victorious life.
Victorious, and it's not too late.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. So I just want to remind everybody out there, it's not too late to call in. It's not too late to comment, to just say hello, 919-518-9773, or computers, that's plural, 2K Voice on Skype, and you're more than welcome to join us in our chat. So, Freddie, You've done movies, you've done celebrities, right?
Yeah, we'll see. So in the early 1990s, um, I was approached by this producer, director, Taylor Hackford, who was working on this movie, Blood In, Blood Out, about the Chicano aspect and prison and everything. A great, amazing story, amazing movie. And so he came to me and said, "Hey, I hear you're the guy to talk to when it comes to prison tattoos." And he needed tattoos for his movie. And actually, I went on to work on that film for 6 months. Every aspect of the art of it, I helped develop a technique to apply these temporary tattoos. And eventually, in the course of that movie, I was connected with the world-renowned makeup artist, Freddy Blau, who makes all the blood. And he was the first one to do the tattoo process for movies like Tattoo with Bruce Dern and The Illustrated Man. And so we worked together on Blood In, Blood Out, and I helped him. I had printing experience and things like that. So together we kind of perfected his technique of doing temporary tattoos for actors in movies. And so we became partners. And for the next 15 years, I worked on countless features and TV shows because with the increased popularity of tattooing at that time, of course, the media is going to want to use it. And I think tattooing is a great thing to use in developing a character for a movie, especially these days, where tattooing is so popular, everybody's getting them. Like before, it was just how you describe somebody that was from prison or something. Nowadays, you can use tattoos and tattoo imagery to really help develop the character that is being portrayed in the movies. So I helped kind of pioneer that as well, the temporary tattoos for movies.
So are you the tattoo artist of the stars?
I've done my fair share of stars, but there are bigger names than my own with tattooing stars, like Mark Mahoney, but yeah, I've tattooed a lot of celebrities and sports figures and things like that, but I'm more happy with the work I did, for film, things like Austin Powers, the Blade trilogy, Con Air, Falling Down, Rising Sun, things like that. It goes on and on and on.
On and on and on and on. Well, let's go back to showing some of those PowerPoints because they are really important in what we're doing. But also, I want to remind everybody, please feel free to call in. Don't forget. Okay. So is this the one we already did? Oh, no, this one. Okay. One. Tell us about this.
So, one of the things, so when we did religious style tattooing, when back in the 70s, we just had kind of almost, the images were off, a lot of them off of like funeral cards from Catholic churches, and as, we got the internet and everything, we were able to see a lot more, especially in the statue work, from the great masters like Michelangelo and Bernini, and it became almost a tattoo style in itself. People loved the statue work. This one happens to be Neptune or Poseidon, either one. And it was done by Bernini.
Do you take, Freddie, do you take art classes in general, like from about the masters, and do you do that?
When I was in college, I got a degree in art, in graphic design and illustration, but not anymore, but you learn an awful lot when you're, reproducing that comes from a 3D image, And so, you know, it really makes the image that you're tattooing look a little more 3D because it's coming from a sculpted image.
How many degrees do you have?
I have a degree in biblical literature. I have a master's in apocalyptic literature, and then I have an art degree.
Goodness gracious, Freddy.
A bachelor's in art.
Goodness gracious. All right. And what is this one?
Well, this is actually the client's hand, and you know, holding the rosary beads, and so I put some beads on his hand. You know, I kind of modeled it and took a picture of it. You know, the dove, of course, represents the Holy Spirit, and the whole tattoo is his devotion to spirituality and prayer. This is one of our clown girls that I talked about, you know, that became a very, you know, popular design with the Chicanos. You know, I don't know why, but we loved, and I remember doing it when I was a kid, you know, just making our girls, drawing our girls like with a clown face, you know. And so I mess around. Usually you see the thing going around her eye.
Yeah.
That's usually just like a rectangle, you know, shape. And there's sometimes one on the bottom too. And so I try to mix it up and make it different, you know, by just using one and not on both eyes, and giving it almost more of like a floral shape, you know, just to change it up a little bit and make it different.
What kind of tattoos are women asking for?
Oh, they're getting all kinds of women. We tattoo more women than men, actually. Maybe not me, but at the shop, you know, the other artists doing smaller tattoos. So, you know, they love the geometrical stuff. They love the sacred geometry. Women love that stuff. Mandalas, writing, you know, little saying, floral designs. Floral designs were more popular back in the day. I think what you're seeing as more popular with women these days is just the geometric stuff.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that. What is this?
So here you have a classic Chicano themed tattoo, because on the right you have like revolutionary soldiers, but they're women. We like to make our revolutionary soldiers women, and you see them there about to ambush.
Why is that? I got to interrupt. Why is that? Why women?
I think because we just love beautiful women.
Good answer. Good answer.
Oh, we were gangsters. We didn't want to tattoo a bunch of men on ourselves, I guess.
So I want to ask you, so is it women of all ages, first of all, that is the trend, or is it younger women or women of all ages?
All ages.
All ages.
And you see so many mothers and daughters coming in together.
Really?
You know, it's amazing how many mothers and daughters, you know, it's like, and they'll get not so much matching tattoos, but, you know, tattoos that have something to do with their relationship. This is another Aztec themed tattoo, because we were very much into Aztec artwork. This is an eagle warrior. The eagle warriors with the Aztec were an elite fighting, you know, like they were like the Navy SEALs of the Aztec army, and they wore helmets like that depicted, you know, a jaguar, and they wore like suits, spotted suits, also, so that they look like jaguars, you know. That was my creation.
Let me ask you.
There's Ganesh.
I got to ask you this one, I've been wanting to ask this question to somebody forever. What happens as you age? when you wrinkle?
With the tattoos?
Yes.
Oh, with black and gray tattoos, they actually look better. They get softer and smoother, and I think if they're originally done right, they age really, really well. Of course, as you get really old, they look a little bit more blurry, but by that time, who cares?
Who's looking? All right, and this was
that's Ganesh, the Hindu god, and this guy he's half Indian and half European. So on one arm, he did all like Catholic images, like of Jesus and Mary and statues, even some Greek statues. And on the other arm, we're doing all Hindu type statues and images.
The detail is just extraordinary.
This is a wraparound of a sleeve. This is more Aztec art. On the far right is the Aztec god of love and dance and flowers, and his name is Xochipilli, or her name. And in the middle is the Aztec sun god, and then on the left is another depiction of a jaguar elite.
Before you go to this one, just tell me, what's next for you? Is there something next for you?
Yeah, I would like to see a portion of the story of my book be a movie, and so there's a lot of different people reading the book right now that could make that a possibility. But I think that's going to be the next thing that I try to focus on.
So the book is on Amazon, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so we just might have a moment or two. How would you, what would you like to tell our audience about coming to you for a tattoo, anything?
Well, I have a website with a section in there on a lot of my recovery story, where I go more in depth in there. It's freddynegrete.com. And I'm on Instagram as Freddy_Negrete, and on Facebook, Freddy Negrete. And if you want to get tattooed, then you just call Shamrock Social Club in West Hollywood. The number there is 310-271-9664. And they'll have some questions for you, and they'll schedule an appointment and put you in touch with me.
And what is your final words of wisdom?
It's that theme, never give up. There's always hope. There's always new life, and I would advise everybody to open their heart and open their mind to the reality of God, and God without religion, just your own spiritual walk. God will come to you as you are, who you are and where you're at, and give it a try.
Mm-hmm. And I bet when if not just looking back, but if you were looking forward from when you were 15, 16, 18, you probably could not have imagined being able to have accomplished all that you've been able to accomplish.
No.
That's what makes you right? Right? No?
No. I remember as a youth, I was pretty certain that I would probably spend the rest of my life in prison. And it's funny because so many of my friends, the people I associated with, the people that I met in institutions, went that route. And so it could have been a very easy path for me to go on. It could have, very thin line there from me being in prison for the rest of my life or dead, and quite the opposite,
Right.
being a successful artist.
A successful artist, successful businessman, successful spiritual counselor. It's so important for somebody with your message to be out there. And I want to thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And thank you everyone out there for being here with us today and sharing in this story that you're going to see one day on the screen. And you're going to say, I know Freddy. So Freddy, thank you once again.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. And we'll see everybody next week. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.